All right, in this episode, we discuss neck, shoulder, and hip mobility,
and the most effective way to improve it all.
All right, Brent Porcio and Nate Galliford here at Top Velocity, hashtag Pitch a Tip Show, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, at Top Velocity, hashtag Pitch a Tips, hashtag Basal Tips. Ask your question, we answer it on the show. Got a special guest here, Nate. He's been here for the past, 3 days now?
Yeah, since Wednesday.
Yeah, and he's been working really hard with all of our guys. Juan brought him in, Juan Espinosa. Shout out to Juan, going out to his season this year. Best of luck to him. When did you start working with Juan?
I know Juani since Juan junior in high school, and then as I started doing all this stuff, Juani came over and was kind of like my guinea pig. So started for him since like 3 or 4 years ago, and just doing more and more.
So it's called active isolated stretching.
Yeah.
And
my company is AIS Matters. You can find it on Instagram, AIS Matters, and check out some videos and stuff we got there.
And you took me through it. It was really cool. It was just, probably the best stretching you'll ever have. It's because it's assisted. You know what you're doing. I'm probably gonna kill the best way to lay it out. How would you define it if to the layman who wants to know what you do?
Yeah, basically it's just active stretching. So you're doing the work, and then me or anybody else is helping you attain more. So it's not passive. So you're really working the muscles, and then the opposite muscles are gonna relax and allow you to really stretch because they're gonna remain passive.
Yeah, I feel great after it. Most everybody who's been through it says they feel great after it. So it's pretty awesome, and we're gonna get to know a little bit more about you on the show. So I was glad to have you on. We got some good questions for you.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just want guys to know who you are. How can they follow you?
They can follow me on Instagram, AS Matters. My website's on there also, so you can check out the website too. And then contact me if you got any questions about anything. DM or emails on there too, I think.
Cool. So we got a couple questions today. Let's see what we can do. Audience of one asks, how about cervical spine posture during the delivery? Should the chin stay tucked for better energy transfer? All right, good question. This is for you. So how would you answer that? How would you help a pitcher who has bad hip and shoulder mobility? What are your strategies?
Yeah, basically, we'd probably start from the shoulder and kind of work muscle by muscle, starting with the pecs and going into, bicep, rotator cuff, all that. See really what's working and what's not, work to get all that open, and then move on down to the hip. Same thing, starting with psoas hip extension, which is important for all you guys with the velocity and stuff, and get all that working on the way down to the foot if that's an issue too. And then based on where you're tight or maybe some weakness in there also, we'll kind of make sure we get all that opened up, and then show you some strength work too, so we get not only the flexibility but get it strong and support for that to continue with your success with everything.
So how's the progression work with someone you're working with? Is it like, obviously you can't do this just one time. Is this something where you're doing them every session? And how many sessions are we doing it with them? Is this something you can give them doing their own, or how would it work?
It depends on the person. Some people are genetically inclined to stay more flexible, gifted that way, and they might not need as much time stretching. So we might go through a couple things one time and they might be good to go. Might have some weaknesses, address those, get them going, and then I'll show them what to do. They can always look in the books where the stuff is, or the videos on Instagram, and do all that on their own. Or if they need me, then they keep coming back. It's kind of as need basis, where I want you guys to get going and be able to do it yourself. And once you're moving well and all that's good, you may or may only need me as a refresher to keep yourself, like a maintenance program or something like that.
So how much progress can we make in mobility? So if I'm stuck in 10 degrees of hip internal rotation, and with the 3X programs, we've defined a high velocity pitcher needs about 35 to be able to get that force vector, or that ankle to knee, in a linear position, so when they drive, it actually creates that linear lateral power that moves to their hips. So if I'm trying to go from 10, I'm stuck at 10. I'm trying to go to 35. Is it even possible for me to get to 35, or just is that really going to be based on my genetics? I mean, what can we expect here? What's the ballpark that we all think we could make improvements on?
Yeah, absolutely. You can get there. It depends. A lot of factors go into it. Your genetics, how healthy your tissue is, how you're a healthy person working out, nutrition wise, all that plays in a factor. But I mean, normally we get results real quick. I think I posted a video with Peyton where his hip extension was about 0 starting out, and just in 4 or 5 reps got it all the way up to 20 degrees. And but depending on what he's doing, he might tighten up, might need to I'd show him how to do it himself, get it going. But normally it's that quick. Since you're actively working, you just get it open, and it stays open most of the time. Then you get the glutes to fire, hamstrings will work again, get all that strength in there, and really keep that mobility after we get it going.
And it's something they got to continue every day. I mean, that's just going to go right back if you don't.
Yeah, it's a daily thing, especially baseball, pitching. You guys are using all these muscles day in and day out, and really pushing your bodies to the limits. You want to make sure you got a good maintenance program to get that range of motion and keep it going, because you're going to tighten up, maybe things like that.
Everybody knows the big project in here for mobility is Jahar. So,
oh man,
what's the strategies for Jahar here, who's pretty much extremely tight? And I mean, he was built tight. But also on top of that, he's a very explosive, strong guy. Like, really, what's the future for someone like Jahar, who's just extremely tight in all of his joint mobility?
Yeah, I mean, Jahar is a big dude, lots of muscle mass, but just difficulty moving. And some of those smaller guys and those fine movements are just not there right now. Maybe never got him developed, but I mean, even him, he was about negative 30, 40 in his hip extension. And it's one of the tightest I've ever seen, and we got it to about negative 10 in just a little bit. I mean,
just in one day, right?
Yeah, just in a couple minutes. And the thing with him is it's going to be a constant battle where maybe tomorrow he might tighten up a little bit, but probably sort of achieved or gained most of that, and then we're just going to keep working day-to-day basis to keep getting that, get the muscle stronger, get it all working good. So it might take a little longer just because he's a little stiffer, and it's been like that for a while. It didn't get like that 1 year. Maybe he never had it. So for him, it might take more difficulty, but definitely can get it there. It's just, I got to work on it every day. It's not something you just take a magic pill and, it's magically better. You got to keep working on it and every day get it better.
Right. So for Jahar might be close to average.
Right.
From horrible to
he might not be going
average.
Out being a gymnast or anything like that. But that might not be what he needs. He's throwing, I don't know what his velocity was, but whatever he's doing, mid-80s, and he's that stiff, which is pretty incredible that he's able to even move with that little of mobility. So just maybe getting him to near normal ranges might, accelerate his growth.
Yeah,
tremendously.
Just because he's got so much powder. I mean, he's got a 34-inch vertical jump.
Wow.
Really strong, like 400-plus back squat.
It's crazy.
Yeah, the big muscles are moving. It's just trying to get, like you said, some of the smaller muscles be able to activate and work.
Yeah, he could barely fire his hamstrings. Hip extension weren't working.
And you were saying something about his shoulders.
Yeah, his shoulder too. The internal rotation wasn't there at all. He was trying to reach back for his ear. I couldn't even feel like those muscles were even alive. So just got to get them working again and do some exercises for that.
Besides genetics, what causes most athletes to tighten up?
A lot of athletes, repetitive movements, your body tends to adapt to what you're constantly putting it through. And then, even away from the movements, what are you doing with your posture-wise, body-wise when you're away? A lot of young kids now sitting in chairs all bent over, with the necks and stuff. So as it's in a shortened position, so affects the hip extension too, because they're always sitting. So, you got to get, in addition to getting it open, change your posture and work on that too. It's all things that are going to factor in and help you with that. For sure. Right,
and then at the same time too, dehydration.
Absolutely.
I think pitchers need to understand how well they got to hydrate, because we're outdoor athletes. We're typically in the summer and we're in a lot of sun, so we dehydrate very easily, and then that's going to affect your overall mobility.
Yeah, a lot of kids aren't drinking enough water, I don't think.
All right, cool. Well, that answered that question. We got one more.
Ace Ventura asks, question for Nate, with AIS matters, how would you help a pitcher who has bad hip and shoulder mobility?
All right, audience of one, good question. I like your questions, man. Always into the anatomy. We'll go over the cervical spine. Nate, you fill in anything that you feel like needs to be said about the cervical spine. Sure. Obviously, everything up in the neck, I have a lot of tightness there, and I think a lot of guys do that are looking down and on computers. I start to have a lot of issues with it. But as far as biomechanically and pitching, it's very important that we stay chin tucked. It keeps us also in a good posture as long as your lower half is in a good posture. And if we're in this forward head position, it can cause problems in the delivery. If I'm in a forward head position as I'm going obviously towards the target, I might want to transfer my trunk early because of that head is pushing out. Or I might, I hit front foot and I push my head out as opposed to staying tucked. I might want to start my arm early into rotation. So I might, cause arm drag or just, I want to get up early. I want to get going with my arm early, and it doesn't transfer energy late, which is really important when you're trying to increase your velocity or optimize your velocity. So yeah, chin tucks is a great position for the delivery. You should stay chin tucked the whole time. Just let the arm go forward, and that would prevent anything from going early. But we were talking about, like with the cervical spine, what do you feel like, besides someone sitting in this posture all the time, what do you feel like can cause
like a forward head posture?
Yeah, forward head posture.
Yeah, like normally the first thing that comes is pec minor. The pecs get short and shoulders start to round, and then the rotators get tough and puts a lot of put a lot of stress on the neck. So the shoulders are rolling forward. So if your shoulders don't work good, automatically you can see the neck kind of goes forward. So you got to get those shoulders opened up first, and then get with the neck. The neck will kind of get into a position where the shoulders are pulling it.
Do you start first with the shoulders?
Yeah.
Or the neck?
We'll start with the shoulders first, get that opened up, because automatically you get the shoulders in a better position, the neck will be more receptive to open up, and you'll get better results with that also.
And as far as the neck, do you advise guys, because you were doing a lot of stretching like this and like this, do you advise guys to do their own stretching to the neck just because it is a dangerous part to be yanking on?
Yeah, obviously you got to know what you're doing, be careful. So we have a neck protocol, some stuff on the Instagram, you can check out the videos. It's just making sure that you're stretching the right way, just a short period of time, about 1.5 to 2 seconds. So doing short movements, more movements rather than longer holding, which actually engage your muscles, stretch reflex, and cause them to contract. And anytime you're contracting, you're really not going to get any release in that tissue, or not as optimally as you'd like to. So keeping all that relaxed, it's gentle pressure doing it. You're not pulling too hard to aggravate any of those muscles, and being careful. But definitely got to know what you're doing and make sure in the right planes.
Yeah, so you use a shorter stretch, but you go back to that stretch again. What's
Right.
the difference between doing that and let's say a 2-minute hold in that position? What's the difference?
So after about 2 seconds, your stretch reflex in your muscle starts to fire, and it's kind of like your self-defense mechanism. So if I'm here and I'm holding, that muscle is going to start to say, hey, that might hurt me more than help me, so I'm going to contract, try to get out of there. So I can keep pulling, and eventually I might fatigue it where it releases. Like some of the guys were talking, they were doing some adductor stretches on the wall where, eventually it starts to fall, but you're just fatiguing them, so they kind of give up. But the next morning you might wake up and not be able to move your legs because you aggravate them a little bit. So you just want to engage about 1.5 to 2 seconds. You're using that opposite side. So I'm working from here really to stretch this to release, because as soon as I contract one side, brain sends a signal to the other just to relax and shut off. So it's nice and relaxed to get that release in the tissue that you're
So it's like it's a couple seconds, and then you usually typically relax, and then you go back to the area again. And then how many times do you like to do that?
Yeah, a couple. 6 to 10 repetitions, maybe more, maybe less, depending. Maybe a couple sets. We'll do a few. If it's tight, might come back, do another set, and go around, get some other things opened up. Just depends on what's tight and what's not. But a few reps here, come back, do it again, and go from there.
All right, cool. So once again, tell them how they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram, AIS Matters, and on the website's on there too, same aismatters.com. And then email me if you have any questions. Glad to help you. Hope any of the videos help you. Or if you want anything posted on there that's not, just send me an instant message, and we'll try to get that content for you.
All right, cool. If you have a question, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, @TopVelocity, #PitchTips, #Baseball Tips. Ask your question, and we'll answer it on the show.